Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tradesman Experience. This is the podcast built by tradesmen for tradesmen. My name is Josh, and I wanted to dive into a topic that, to tell you the truth, has been the biggest personal struggle for me on my growth journey. And when you look at self-worth, and self-worth is a term that's thrown around a lot, and it's thrown around in business and personal growth and leadership and so on. But I'm going to change that term for the sake of this conversation from self-worth to personal value. Personal value is the most difficult part, has been the most difficult part of my growth journey, continues to be the most difficult part of my growth journey. But I have finally discovered why. And that's why I thought it was a good time to share with you so you don't have to waste as much time as I did fighting this internal battle of personal value. Now, a lot of what I'm going to talk about here in the personal value is the the transfer to monetary value. Your personal value and how that relates to the monetary value. How much money you make, how much money you want to make, how much money are you willing to receive? Because to simplify money in two ways. One, money as a result. Money as a result of the value that you bring to the market. But the value that we bring to the market is only as high as the value that we perceive ourselves to be. And two, money is just the measurement. If it were rocks and sticks or rubles and bananas or anything else, then that's what we would measure that reward in. But in our current state, the score, the metric of score in performance in business is money. You have to make money, you have to spend money. So I wanted to dive into this self conversation today about personal value, and I want to start here with a quote that I heard a long time ago from Les Brown. If you've never heard Les Brown is a phenomenal speaker. I always enjoy his material. But he said, someone else's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. Now, I want to start there because our current day relationship with money is based on our conversation that we have with ourselves about our self-worth, about our personal value. And that conversation stems from the experiences, relationships, and teachings that we were brought up with. See, we were all programmed to think a certain way. We were all programmed to believe certain things. And when it comes to money, I know I was programmed to A, not understand money, but B, to look at money as the result of greed, the result of stealing, the result of behavior that took something from someone else and that's how they got it. And it's taking me and still taking me many, many, many years to try to rework that program. But the reason I start with that quote is someone else's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. See, it's easy. I know a knee jerk reaction for me, at least a mental state, would be it's easy to think of a negative, of a bully, right? If someone that is in attacking us negatively, sharing their opinion in a negative manner, and we have to combat that. That's the easy scenario to consider when you hear that quote. The difficult scenario to consider is the positive reinforcement of limiting growth. And that's where we start to build the blueprint of our personal value. For example, if your parents told you that you can be great, but rich people are bad, that doesn't seem like a negative attack. When the reality is they're programming you to have a a negative relationship with money, but at the same time doing the parental thing to do, and that's to be positive and try to encourage people. And I'm not going to pick on parents. This is parents. This is school. This is your boss. This is your friends. This is everybody and everything that you are around. Um, what you read, what you listen to, how you feed your mind, and how you continue to feed your mind is ultimately going to have an impact on your personal value and your relationship with money. But if you think back, I know for me, I was never told that it's healthy to be wealthy. I was never told that growing up. I was never told that you should learn how money works. You should learn to leverage it for what it is, which is a tool. You should come to accept the fact that wealth is a reward. And if I'm already, and by I'm 6 minutes in here, if you're already having conflict with what I'm saying, then you really need to step back because I have come to believe that people of great value deserve great reward. And if you're adding value to people and you're solving problems and you're helping people out, why shouldn't you make more money? So if that has some internal conflict with you, you are exactly who I'm talking with. You are exactly who I am targeting in this message because that's me also. That was me, I should say. That's past tense me. That's old version of me. But you have to look at it and recognize that not just negative approach is what we have to look at when someone's indoctrination of us to us has become our reality. Doesn't mean you're a bad person because you don't know how to understand money. Doesn't mean your parents are bad people because they didn't teach you money. That's not what I'm saying. Because they probably didn't know because they were regurgitating what they have been told. The 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 indoctrination of our school system is just regurgitating what they've been told. So this is not about assigning blame, it's about creating awareness. And it's about creating awareness in yourself. And you can be listening to this going, God, I wish my brother or I wish my parents could hear this. It's like, no, this is about you having self-awareness. This is about you understanding your relationship not only with money, but your personal value, your relationship with yourself. This takes a lot of work because unless you were actually taught, raised, or self taught early on of how to understand money, how to comprehend the use of money, you're going to have to do a lot of work, a lot of rework. And on that journey of rework, the narratives that have been passed on to you are going to get louder. They're going to amplify. They're going to try to consecrate the the truth as believed that you're doing the wrong thing trying to become financially free, trying to become wealthy. And you notice I'm using the term wealth. I'm using the term financially free because what's rich, right? And uh, whatever, I don't care. And your definition of wealth and my definition of wealth are not going to be the same. And that's okay. You also have to be careful not to judge someone else's definition of wealth and say, well, they just have a poor mindset. What is wealth to you? And don't give me your parroting, your echo chamber, your regurgitated upbringing of Well, a little bit of money in the bank, enough money to pay my bills, maybe save up money for college, and then have a good retirement. I don't care what your definition is. That's not wealth. That's getting by. And that's a great identifier as to what your standard is. What is your standard? And this goes back to, again, personal value. I'm gonna the translation between the two and the transfer between the two is relevant to this conversation, but that's where you have to start challenging yourself. Why do I think that way? Have you ever thought to ask yourself a specific question about a specific thing? And that question being, why is it that I think this way? Why is it that I perceive money? Why is it that I think this way about politics? Why is it that I think this way about X? If you if you don't have the self-awareness to ask why you think the way that you think, then you have much bigger problems than money problems. You you probably have relationship problems, you probably have health problems, you probably have career problems because you've never stopped to question yourself. And when you don't question yourself, it's easy to blame everything and everyone else for your problem. So you have to stop and ask yourself, why do I think this way? So ask yourself, why do I have the relationship with money that I do? Why do I think about money the way that I do? Why do I think about wealth the way that I do? Another question I'm going to give you now, this isn't the internal narrative, this is an attack question to help you identify your perception of money. How do you perceive people with money? When you see someone driving a vehicle that you want, or driving a vehicle that you don't think that you could ever afford, or having a house, and yes, I'm going down the list of materialistics because we don't have access to their bank accounts, we don't have access to their personal relationships, we don't have access to their marriage equity. So what we see, which oftentimes is a filter, what we see is how we base our narrative and our opinion. So that's why I'm asking you this question. How do you perceive people with money? How do you look at people that have the things that you want or have the things that you don't think that you could ever have? That right there should be an identifier to your relationship, not with just money, but with yourself. That should be a good identifier to your personal value. My good friend Garrett and I had this conversation yesterday as of this recording. How do you dress? And I know in the blue collar world, it's almost taboo to talk about personal appearance. And I don't understand why. I think too many people take too much pride in looking like a piece of shit. And I'm not talking about getting dirty doing your job. I that is off the table, okay? Guys, we have dirty jobs that we have to do every day. What I'm talking about is if you take that off the table, how how are how are you dressing? Because what I know about your appearance is it is a reflection of the internal narrative. And don't fucking come at me with this shit of, well, um, Bill Gates only wears this and Steve Jobs only wore that and he wore. You're talking about elite multi-billionaires. Are you an elite multi-billionaire? No, then shut the fuck up. Okay? There's like 6 people you can take off the table and your conversation is irrelevant. How do you control your appearance? when you're not at work, when you are with your family or you're with your home at home, and this is something else I'm going to attack you guys on the amount of people that I see in fucking Crocs and some kind of baggy ass shorts and some shit top in public, in grocery stores, in restaurants. I just I don't understand when the fuck we became so lazy about self-care, about how we perceive ourselves. But the reality is we've become so fucking lazy about our personal value because we live through a filter and lens and we just judge everybody else because they've got nicer, better, more expensive things than us. Why is someone else's wealth a justification for you to dress like a fucking hobo? I just don't. You're giving up power. You're giving up your power. You are selling off your personal value for an uneducated opinion that runs on a loop inside of your nicotine, alcohol, caffeinated, infused brain, and we get to reap the reward of that by you blessing us with your presence. Well, it costs money to have it doesn't cost money to be fucking clean, and it doesn't cost you any money to make a decision to put a pair of fucking pants on before you go outside into the world. It's one of those pet peeves of mine. I just don't understand the laziness. I really don't. It fucking blows my mind. Back to reworking yourself because I'm sure I'll get off on several tangents, and that's the danger of doing solo episodes is there's no boundaries. There's there's no one to steer me back on course except me staring at myself in a camera on screen. But back to the rework yourself. You've got to start asking yourself these questions as to why you think this way. Why do you act this way? Why do you dress this way? Why do you communicate this way? Why do you behave this way? Why do you react this way? Why do you talk to your kids this way? Why do you talk to your spouse this way? Why do you talk to yourself this way? Why do you act like this at your job? Why do you act like this in public? Why do you make these decisions? Why do you indulge in alcohol? Why do you indulge in drugs? Why do you indulge? And I'm a caffeinated freak, guys. I fucking love caffeine. But why do we indulge in these stimulants every day? See, we don't ever stop to ask the questions because we were taught not to. It goes against the status quo because it doesn't sell boxes. You have to continue the battle to rewrite your own story. You have to determine your personal value. I'm going to give you a couple. Hopefully, I'll remember to give you a couple examples. But I remember early on as a service technician, super green, super, super green, probably my second or third year. And I remember fighting is not the right word, but negotiating heavily to try to convince my boss. And now looking back at it, it was all a fucking ploy, but on his part. But I remember negotiating with my boss to get a raise to $10 an hour and how difficult he was making that for me. But I had to prove my worth and I had to prove my value. But the hidden problem behind all of that is I thought my self-worth, that my personal value had a monetary number of $10 an hour. And I just wasn't smart enough. I wasn't educated enough to look past that. It was always about getting to the next thing, the next raise, the next dollar, the next whatever. And I remember sitting in the service truck, boss was in there. I'm going through average tickets and I've got this whole thing strategically planned on my conversation of how I can convince him that I'm worth $10 an hour. And it was probably an hour long conversation. You understand that an hour long conversation. His operational value of a multi-million dollar company to give me a raise to $10 an hour. He lost money in that conversation, by the way. He lost money. Where he gained it was all of the time that I spent working at $10 an hour and the money that he was able to make him off of me. But for me, that was my personal value. That was where I fit in the square peg, square hole metric of growth within the company. It was $10 an hour. By the way, I started at $7 an hour. And when I got one of my certifications, they moved me to $8 an hour. But that's all I thought I was worth. And that signifies my entire career as a technician, signifies my entire career, my entire life, my entire life that signifies my relationship with money and clearly identifies my personal value because I never wanted to be perceived as too much. I never wanted to make too much because that's what I was taught. And I remember the first time that I made $100,000 in a year. I thought I won the fucking lottery. I had more money, literally had more money than I knew what to do with because the problem is I didn't know what to do with it because I didn't know how money works. I didn't have a good relationship with it. I didn't know how to invest. I didn't know how to build compound interest. I didn't know opportunities that I had just because, again, ignorance, not stupidity, not neglect, sheer ignorance, because I had continued to make a decision to believe the things that I had been taught and never asked the question why. And then using that to go, what is it that I need to know about money? How can I use this money? Who can I talk to? Jim Rohn's quote, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You're probably all within 20% of the same amount of money as well. The 5 people you spend the most time with, you everybody probably makes within 20%. That is one of the negatives of not growing. And if you've listened to me long enough, you've heard me talk about personal growth and self-growth. If you're new to this, it's one of the sacrifices that you get to make when you go on a growth journey, when you go on a personal development journey. And everybody else calls it that, you have to leave people behind, you outgrow people and your circle changes. And it's 100% true. But what I'm here to tell you is you don't outgrow those people. You outgrow the version of yourself that those people are attached to. And that's who they want to hang on with. They don't want you to leave. They don't want you to make more money. They don't want you to find a different circle. They don't want you to be more successful than them at the cost of minimizing the relationship. I don't know of anything more selfish. Parents are the same way. Families are the same way. Coworkers are the same way. They don't want you to be successful at a level where you could possibly leave them. So you have to be conscious of who's in your circle. Are they rooting for you? Are they trying to push you up? Or are they trying to drag you down? People like that have a mindset called just enough. Just enough to pay the bills, just enough to put a little bit back, just enough to retire, just enough to buy groceries, just enough to go on vacation, just enough. That's not the mindset that you want to be around. You want people to pull you up to understanding how money works, pull you up because you need people around you that are going to add value to you and that you can add value to. And if they're pulling you down, they're not adding value to you. They're playing it safe. They're playing it safe, and, "Well, what if I do this and it doesn't work out?" Okay, so it didn't work. That particular thing, that particular way didn't work. Would you prefer mediocrity? Would you prefer complacency? Would you prefer not taking any risk and fighting for just enough? Or are you one of the few that believes that you're worth more? You just no one's ever stopped to tell you how or why you should question yourself, how to write a new narrative. So you're just sitting idle in this loop of mediocrity. When you think about money too, and as I have stated a couple times, this has been the biggest thing for me to overcome. And I'm a personal growth junkie, and I want people to succeed. I love seeing people succeed. Every time I meet a wealthy person, I wish I could interview them for 5 hours because I wanna know everything about them, what they did, what they didn't do, what worked, what didn't work. But I'll tell you one of the biggest shifts for me was I went from materialistic focused to mindset focused. I went from being focused on the reward and the result of the materialistics of having money and became focused and have become focused on the mindset that generates that result. The narrative, the mindset, the understanding of money. So are you material focused or are you mindset focused? You constantly need to be working to grow your personal value. If you had a ticker tape every day that you got up and looked at and that it printed out a number, and that number was based on your current relationship, your current bank account, your current health, your current career, your current mindset, your current internal narrative, everything that was current, internal and external in your life, if you were to able to get up and there's a ticker tape running and you looked at that and it had a monetary number on it, what would that number be? And how do you make it better? How do you increase that number? And it's not about increasing the number, it's about increasing the value, your value. How do you increase your value? You can't get to where you want to be unless you know where you are. So I will tell you, it doesn't matter how many books you read. And by the way, I've read more fucking books on how to make money. The problem is I I took in the information, but I didn't learn how to implement it. I've read Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, which that's one of the big books that I would recommend that you read and read and read and read. Okay. I've read Richest Man in Babylon. I've read um the Napoleon Hill book. I can't think of the name of it right now. I've read Tony Robbins's The Game of Money. I've read Grant Cardone's Millionaire Habits or what like I've read all of these books, but I attacked this moving forward without fixing my financial blueprint. And that's a term that comes out of the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by Harv Eker. I never worked to not even fix. Let me back that up even further. I never worked to acknowledge, to understand my blueprint. I never worked to understand the formula, my formula of personal value before I started trying to learn all of this information. So all it became was information that I was able to use, but not for myself. I wasn't able to use it for myself because I never went back far enough to understand the the formula, the blueprint for my personal value. By the way, for me, that was a unsettling journey. It's been an unsettling journey because you have to come face to face with a lot of truths, with a lot of I'm sorry, with a lot of false information that you believe to be true. And you're going to have to change your way of thinking, as I have had to change my way of thinking. Now, I want to turn this into business a little bit because if you have a poor relationship with money, if you don't have an operating budget, if you don't understand your personal value, um, your ability to successfully lead and grow a company is going to be very limiting. Some of the examples I give already, one is if you have a poor financial blueprint, if you have a low personal value metric, you're not going to be confident in paying people well because you're imposing your negative onto them as to why they don't deserve this amount of money. It's also why you can't keep good people. And the good people that you can keep probably have a similar personal value metric or financial blueprint as you. And they're okay with that. But if you don't have a high financial blueprint, you can't elevate people to be successful financially. You also are going to have a very low ability to sell. And most companies, especially in a market like this, they don't sell anyway. They just take orders. Hey, somebody says, I want this. They give them a price. They say yes. That's not selling. That's taking an order. That's you're basically the person at the drive-through. They're coming in. I want this, this, and this. Okay, great. Your total is this. They say, yep. You process the order. You give them the product. They give you money and they leave. So a lot of companies are existing right now just on transactions. They're not selling anything. But your ability to sell is a direct reflection of your personal value. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when selling is um, they sell based on their buying power. So they have a problem selling expensive, what we would consider to be, or maybe what you consider to be an expensive product because you wouldn't buy it because you couldn't afford to buy it or you could do it yourself. I wouldn't pay for somebody to do that. Well, fuck you. You're not paying for it. They are. But if your ability to sell is really low, that's because the metric of your personal value is really low and your relationship with money is really low. Another one is your ability to charge appropriately. If you're charging 50, 60, 70, $80 an hour in a market that everybody else is doing 100 to 120, 150, $200 an hour, and you look at that and go, "Oh, they're just fucking raping people. I'm just going to keep doing this, for $75 an hour." That's not their problem. That's a you problem. That is a you problem. And if you want to only work for people that can only afford your services, you'll never make any money. Those companies that charge 150, $200 X whatever an hour, that have nicer trucks, that have more people, that have systems, that have higher end clients, the neighborhoods that they serve wouldn't even fucking let you in. They don't want your $75 an hour work. You make them feel cheap because you have a poor relationship with money and you have a low a low personal value, a low self-worth. You've got to look at how you're operating, how you're spending money, how you're investing money, how you're compensating, how you're being compensated. And you really got to look and start to peel back as to why. Again, this journey for me has been the most difficult part is rewiring, is creating a new blueprint. And another example I'll give you that happened recently, as you know, we've completely rebuilt the coaching. We've gotten away from the hourly coaching. We've gone to group style coaching. It's called the Blue Collar Boot Camp. We've got another one that's going to be starting around the 1st of October. We've got the 2-day business builder coming up at the end of September. But I was talking to a guy the other day who I've worked with for some time, great guy. And he said, "How come the hourly coaching is going away?" And I said, "Because I would have to charge $500 an hour to make it worth my time." And he said, "Yeah, but it's probably worth it." And I was like, "Fucking A, it's worth it." Like, that's awesome. The fact that he was able to see that and not be like, "Oh, well, yeah, fuck, why would you charge that? Like, nobody can afford." His response was like, "Yeah, it's probably worth it," because he believes it's worth it, and I believe it's worth it. And if you don't, and here's the thing, and I'll start to wrap this up. Here's the crazy thing: you will work your ass off going broke if you don't increase your personal value. Because the harder you work, the less money you will make if you don't increase your personal value. And everything I've talked about, from your internal narrative to your external behaviors to your perception of wealthy people and materialistics and so on, that is all part of the formula that you have to change. Otherwise, the harder you work, the broker you'll be. This has been a tough journey for me. I wish someone would have shared this information with me along my journey. I wish I would have been humble enough to listen to it if they had, but that's why I wanted to get on here and share this with you. So hopefully it's made a difference. If you are interested in the books that I'm talking about that I have read about finances, just send me a message. I'll happily give you that list. But the first one is The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by Harv Eker. You need to go read that, and not just read it, you need to understand it, and you need to keep reading it until you understand it. I'm in the process of reading it again, I think for the only the third time. Pretty sure when I get through it, I'm going to do it again. So, guys, I hope that helps. I do appreciate you. As I mentioned briefly, the 2-day business builder is in St. Louis, Chesterfield. The conference tickets are available online, and they're at the website, thetradesmanexperience.com. You click on the top, look at the store. You can go in there and buy tickets. There's also owner partner packages that you can buy. You get a little bit of a discount if you buy 2 tickets. But that is 26th and 27th of September in St. Louis, Chesterfield. Fly into St. Louis if you're flying. It's a 25-minute Uber ride to Chesterfield. Get to the hotel. I'm going to be putting details out online for that if they're not already. Actually, by the time this comes out, everything's going to be on there. But get in there, get your tickets. It's limited seating, guys. We keep it to 25 so we can keep it personal. We can keep it intimate. We can do all of the hands-on things that we need to do to help people reconstruct themselves and their business. So go find that out. You can find me on Instagram at The Tradesman Experience. Emails thetradesmanexperience@gmail.com. Websites thetradesmanexperience.com. And the YouTube channel is The Tradesman Experience. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Get out there, get shit done. Be proud to be a tradesman. See ya.